Sorry, guys.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Take care, sir.
We said.
Food delivery everywhere.
Yeah.
Let the saints be joyful. Let me read it from the top. Psalms 149:5. Let the saints be joyful in their glory. Let them sing aloud on their beds. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains, and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise you, the Lord. So yeah, the way the Lord's having this thing play out is it's going to be, Israel's going to be raised up, and a big part of
Sister Nancy, man.
yeah,
I'm playing around.
it's a truth still, it's a truth.
Yeah.
But it's that judgment. A big portion of that is the heathen going into captivity. That's the thing, is all this current rulership system. The reason Esau's kingdom, this whole system, was built off the back of slavery, man. Slavery is in the backbone of all of Esau's nations that rose after what's it called, man? The Renaissance. That using Jake as a human resource, going to the Americas and stealing all the wealth, and basically, and after they rinsed the wealth, they rinsed the northern kingdoms over there. They also took the land itself as well and utilized that. These things, and that's how Esau's made it into that desolate land, that low land. All these things, all that current day, namby-pamby BS is going to get thrown out the window, and it's going to get real raw and real. Because as far as once some chains get slapped on the elites, it's going to be beyond real, man. And it ain't going to be no. It's going to be mental chains as well, but it's going to be physical chains, physical beatings. Because that's how the Lord has it go down. Slavery is in the scriptures. There's a righteous way to do it, and there's Esau's shit, which is just, like he said, like I said before, he forwarded the affliction, man. He went above and beyond what he needed to do. So then he's gonna get his for that. It says what? Return unto them double.
I'm gonna let God speak the scripture. I'm thinking about one scripture. I'm like, I'm sure there's. I just want to let go, man.
I've got one more. Jeremiah 16 and 18. Well, and 18, yeah. And first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land and have filled mine inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. Yeah, recompense double. That's a thing. It's a recompense. This is a payback.
Big payback.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the big payback. Because that's what Esau's gonna be tasting. And that's why it's gonna be so. And it's the same for the heathen. Because they all partook. They're all in bed with the system. They're all part of the system. They're benefit of it. They're getting rich off it. Their lifestyle is being maintained by it. Do that. But hey, you're gonna join in the judgment.
I've got a precept. Quick one. Galatians 6 and 7. Be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So it's that simple. You sow. You do good, it will come back on you. You do bad will come back on you. People today will call it karma. People say putting stuff out into the universe. But that's the quote-unquote universal law of the Heavenly Father. Right? Whatever you put out there, it's going to basically it's going to come back to you. And Esau's done nothing but rape the robbery upon the earth. Right? Basically gone forth and and done everything that he shouldn't do. And basically that's what's coming back to him.
Revelation 13 and 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And that's as cold as it is. Because these are the things that Esau didn't have an ear to hear. He wasn't meditating on these things. Like, okay, you know, when Jake was getting put in slavery, that was seen as nothing but good. That was like, damn, we've got all this free labor. They go over there, they're making it big, they're building up, they're establishing themselves in America. They were only thinking about the good. But then it's like, hey, the check, the balance must needs be paid. And it's like you're invited double back on whatever you're doing, double is coming back. And it says as well in Wisdom of Solomon 2, Esau's thinking, he's like, oh, he thinks if he gets to, you know, get to rest after doing all that wickedness without getting a punishment, he's thinking, okay, good, I won. He's thinking he got the W. But alas, no, you're coming back. You're coming back in the circle, young man. And you're gonna catch your punch, and it's still gonna be double. Because that's the thing. That's why it's hilarious to actually have you got Edomites on this side where they're having a bad time. That means, bro, this is all you got. You should be doing the utmost, and that's how peak it is. Because this is the heaven, the so-called white man. This is his time to shine, man. His time to get the most enjoyment, satisfaction, pleasure within this system. Everything's gonna work in his favor for now.
No matter what.
That's how it runs. That's how it runs for the time being.
He could throw a double-headed coin and say tails and tails material. That's the level.
That's how much.
And that isn't of his power. That's of the power of the Heavenly Father, because his words commanded it. All right. So let me read this quickly. I believe you may have read it, but let me read it. It's to the point. Obadiah 1:11. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them. But thou shouldst not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he had become a stranger, became a stranger. Neither shouldst thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldst thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou shouldst not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldst not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Neither shouldst thou have stood in the crossway, cut off those of his that did escape. Neither shouldst thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of the Lord Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. What we read in Galatians, the 6th chapter, the 7th verse. Right, you reap what you sow. It says, be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked. For that whichever a man soweth, shall he reap. You know, loosely paraphrasing. So I'll read it again. It says, verse 15. For the day of the Lord Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Alright? Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunken upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. Alright? So the Lord is going to make you drunk by the cup. Alright? We have to drink that cup. But guess what? You're going to have to drink that cup as well. Right? Let me quickly read Lamentations 4:21. So this is the book of Lamentations 4:21 and 20. And it reads, rejoice and be glad, O door of Edom. Right? Edom being the so-called white man, or the Edomites. The Edomites is their true nationality. That dwelleth in the land of good. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. And that's what's happening. The brother read Obadiah, the first chapter, alright? And even in the book of Isaiah it tells you about the door of Babylon, come to sit in the dust of the ground, uncover the leg. Basically, it's what we're in the midst of is the revealing of this devil's infrastructure in his kingdom. How he basically does a lot of witchcraft, lying, deception on the masses of the people, alright? But a lot of people are still oblivious to it. Because why? They're sheep. The basic of witchcraft that he administered on the people has been successful. But those that already know that the veil's been taken off of them, they can see clearly that this is some BS going on, alright? But let me read on. So it says, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. And that's really the reason, as the book of Proverbs, the 16th chapter and the 4th verse tells you the wicked were made for the day of evil, alright? So the whole purpose of Esau being created is to what? It's to basically, it tells you in the book of Psalm 17, alright? And basically they're the whipping stick of the Heavenly Father. They'll basically utilize to bring forth the judgment to the nation of Israel, all our shortcomings of the Lord. But now that it's fulfilled, our punishment is fulfilled, now it's time to flip everything on its head and basically bring that punishment onto him, alright? Let me just finish up on this. So it says, thy punishment, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. So this is our last captivity, basically, right? He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins, right? But the point is, they're going to have to drink of that cup. We can go a quick precept. I'm just going to finish up with that, and then you can bring out wherever you go.
No, go.
Yeah, I'll finish it. Alright, so it says, but so Obadiah 1 and 16. But as ye have drunken upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, they shall be as though they had not been. And there's also another precept about drinking down to the dregs, I believe, in the book of Jeremiah, right? But reading on it says, verse 17, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, right? Starting headed by the elect, right? Because as it tells you in the book of Romans, they are not all Israel, which are of Israel, because it is a remnant according to salvation, or according to election. And that's 144,000 governing body of the nation of Israel. But then you also have the 1/3, which is the 144,000 to the side of that, which is the helpers, the children of the 144,000 families, etc., etc. Alright? So it says, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions, right? They're going to basically possess the people, right? As their slaves and also their land, right? So it says, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau a stubble, right? The house of Jacob and Joseph is basically talking about the northern and southern kingdom coming back together again. Because why they ain't been together, going back to the time of the rulership of King Solomon, which is a spiritual thing, because King Solomon is who in the reincarnation, Yahushua. So now this time when they come back together and get busy, it's going to be under the same king that had them, that was ruling when they were last together, alright? And really, even now, the fact that we're coming together under this truth is being done because Solomon, who is Yahushua in the reincarnation, alright, is basically the word of the Heavenly Father, and that's what's joining us all together, alright? And it says the house of Esau, being a so-called white man, being for stubble, alright? It's going to be exterminated.
And you can't start a fire without kindling.
Yeah.
It's like, whilst it'll catch on the logs,
Yeah.
you need like thinner strips of like leaves, dry kindling for the fire to take off. Yeah.
I've got a quick one since you said that. It's the book. This is the book of Luke. Okay, It's in the book of Luke 12 and 49. I am come to set fire on the earth, and what will I if it be already kindled?
Hey, that's it. What Yahweh Shai is coming to do is to bring about a new world order. And not this, this goofy one that Esau's trying to set up. And not this spooky one that Esau's trying to set up, but it's going to be what? Basically, what I spoke about in Daniel 7:18, saints of the Most High taking the kingdom. Basically, Esau's rule being put to an end, and Yahushua coming back with a force of the heavenly angels and the chariots to bring about an end to this place, man. In conjunction with the nuclear missiles. That's basically what's going to be going down in Babylon, man. That's how it's going to come to an end. And as such, that's what it is. These are the things. This is what Esau's trying to avoid, man. Because that's really, when you do a prophecy, it's all about what the end of the first and the beginning of it comes after.
There's more, let's get to the point.
Amos 9 and 9. But lo, I will command, and you'll mention about Yahushua. But lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say, the evil shall not overtake you, nor prevent us. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And this is the spirit, because you had the house, the royal house. You had it was first given unto Saul, but then it was taken from Saul and given unto David. And then through David's line, that's where you had Solomon. But then what? Yahushua was the the most significant birth, because it was through Yahushua. That's how that house was going to be rebuilt. Because you had through David and Solomon, it was all 12 tribes, but then after from Rehoboam onwards, it was split and shattered. So then now it's about it coming back together, and that's what all this is basically about rebuilding that infrastructure that's set up for Israel, and then that's going to be how, and mainly under what? Under Yahushua. Because by Yahushua being, that's how we get certified.
So Moses.
Oh, was that?
Yeah, so
Ah, okay. But yeah, it was through Yahushua. That's how it's going to get certified and sealed. Because as far as for the original, the original covenant, we're incapable of keeping it. And Yahushua allowed it for that to be restored, for it to be basically completed. And the house of David to be rebuilt. And in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up its ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen that are called by my name, saith the Most High power to do this. Yeah, so all the heathen basically becoming that possession. And that's how it's gonna. This is how it's always been set up. There's been no point. We go to the books of Moses. We go to the prophets. We go into the New Testament. It's always been building up the house of man sowing trees, sliding up traffic. But that's.
I didn't even see him looking, but he
was looking the whole time. That's what's going on. But that's what we did. We're a spectacle. Because this is something that hasn't been seen for hundreds of years. The word being brought out, that's something when it was brought back, it's truly mysterious.
And even
then-
Jake, it's lucky. I was gonna say even Jake in this kind of us coming in this type of manner. Because the way, especially in the city centre, the way Esau's the propaganda that's been done on Jake throughout the whole earth, it's like people come over here and they expect you to be wearing a bandana, baggy trousers, you know, and saying, yeah man, or yeah, tight trousers now, basically being like, you know, illiterate and just having no form of decorum.
That BET still.
Yeah.
Which Thingy did an excellent so far. The Boondocks did a great The Boondocks did a great episode on BET, man, and how it's basically just being used to perpetuate that continual destroying cycle, man. I don't know if it was the same. There was one where they were showing like the boardroom and BET and how they're just saying like, how are we gonna destroy black people?
Yeah.
And then there was the other one where Huey for like I don't know, a week or something or 2 weeks, you only watch his BET like all day.
Oh yeah.
Then he just gets more and more illiterate and just like more and more degenerate. Like I'm saying,
I was about to say you never would. Well, I get what you mean.
yeah. He starts moving like
A nigga basically.
like a new, yeah. And then that shows that he, you know, and that's what Esau has been funding.
Because if you look at Jake, what you gotta do is throw it back to the 50s and 60s. Yeah, Jake, they carry themselves in a very different light. Dealing with Judah over there in America, and even it's like most of the different nations as well, they dress kind of similar. I believe Kevin Samuels went into it at one point actually. He spoke about how the way that the radio is marketed to the Edomites in the South about the civil rights movement was like that they were a little, you know, they basically painted them in a bad light. But then when they met them in a protest at a specific point, the basically was like, damn, like, you're impressed with like wearing suits and ties and you're covered up and all that type of, like they looked like they could see themselves in it. You know what I mean? That's to a point where it's like, well, these seem like some honorable type people. But guess what? Through the crack pandemic, right? Or crack epidemic, I call it a pandemic though, alright? Music and black culture basically, which isn't something that belongs to us, it's something that was given to us, alright? Because we had our own culture before that. Black culture is something is a new invention of deception to basically take away from the Lord, alright? So through all those things, what it's done is now created a thing with hip hop culture and all this type of shit where niggas are niggered out, man. Right? And that's why now, no one, Jake is this, and it really, as we're seeing, as everything perpetuates, how precious this word is, man. Because he's really setting you aside, alright? The true word, as Apostle Kabar did a live stream a few days ago about the true words of Yahweh Shai. The line is being set. And ultimately, that's why you have the elect, alright? Isaiah 13 tells you about him being a fine wedge of Ophir, alright? And then ultimately, that's why Isaiah 4:1 comes to you. Because you're going to have that Bruce Leroy glow, man, where it's like women are going to come to you and say, look, man, we don't want nothing from you, but just to be called by thy name. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say about the gold from Ophir, that was, America was Ophir's America, and that was uninhabited.
Yeah.
So that would have just been some raw, free-range gold, just like chunks or whatever, all out and about, man. It would have been of the finest quality. That would have been there.
That's why when you go into the history books, it tells you about Atlanta, Puerto Rico, which is named, you know, rightly so, meaning rich port. Basically, it tells you about the baby Taino Indians, which is the tribe of Ephraim, how they were playing with rubies, alright? And then also in the land of America, when you go down to gather in certain regions, they basically said they could see the gold and silver in the water, right? And this is the thing where our people, we understood the culture that these things of gold and silver, these natural resources certain ones, you're not meant to take them out of the earth because they serve to a certain purpose, right? Like even if you want to deal with modern history, right? The Victorians were taken to England. The Victorians used what do you call those vessels that keep water? Cisterns made out of silver, or they have cisterns made out of clay, or cisterns made out of some form of resource, whatever. Basically, what they'll do, they have silver inside it to purify the water, to keep it from going stale. See, so our people, we had the understanding that, look, man, this gold and silver here, this is our drinking source. This is for our own, for us to be able to get through day to day. We ain't meant to be messing with the gold and silver in this drink, because it's going to give us strength of life and really to get through the day, rather than wearing the jewels and be like, look, man, you're mad because I'm styling. But Esau weren't about that life, man. That's why if you go on the comic book, when they would talk about things like this, oh, you stole our gold and silver, they say you weren't using it. And it's like, no, it had a use. It was there to keep the land in a natural state of being. That's why now if you go over to the land of, let's deal with Africa, for example, go to the west coast, the land is just horrendous. Nigeria, for example, soil, water, soil, everything. But even like the oil in the Delta region, they're basically just eradicated that, man. And it's the same with certain places in America, in the land of America. All the natural rich resources that were in the land, because they've been overreaped and sold, alright? Oversold and reaped, and even the natural gold and silver that was in the land, diamonds, the rubies and emeralds have been taken out of the land. It's not the pH out of balance, man.
And that's, I remember as well, they said, in, I think the Mayans, they had like an underwater, like where they had their well, I think it's an underwater, like river, was how they, that's kind of what, that was one of their main water sources. And they had all kinds of goods under there as well. Like, that's made of, like all those, that's why you had like, I believe it's in the west, like the Mississippi, was it, where they were panning for gold. That was the whole era.
No, you're really talking about California, gold rush.
Yeah.
Where they were panning, that was really what made California big. Because a lot of people rushed over there for the gold rush to basically sift and look for gold.
Which, and man were finding it for days. That sustained it for a while.
And that goes back to what you were saying about that land was uninhabited and the resources were there in abundance.
But then that's the thing in the kingdom. All these things, all that balance is going to come back. Because for the earth, I'll read this.
I've got something, but that just before you say that goes back to Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes. What you say in Ecclesiastes 11, it tells you, cast your bread onto the water, and after many days you shall find you. Basically, if you throw out your money, in this sense, again, the way of the Heavenly Father, if you do the righteous acts, like not over-reaping the land, treating the land how it's meant to be treated, guess what's going to happen? You're going to reap in abundance. That's why in the law, it tells you about the Sabbath of the land. Right, after 7 years, you got to leave it to replenish. That's why Solomon's kingdom had basically gold was like silver was like brass was like there was an abundance because everyone fell in line with the law. You know, it's one of two things. It's not one of two things. It both goes hand in hand. If you move in the spirit, it'll go over, it'll spill over into the tangible world. You know? So you have to do it on both sides to be repentant.
Revelation 11:18, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Which that's what all this, that overgreed, that overabundance of greed is what? That destroying the earth. Because all Esau's done is he's indulged his desire for everything to amass all his wealth. So it's sitting up in some museum, it's in someone's house, it's whatever, it's in the walls of some palace somewhere. But then the earth has been basically lost what was one of the essential ingredients to keep everything in balance. Everything's been thrown out. Because even with the brother mentioned about the land Sabbath, and
Like, if you ask the average person walking up the road, they don't know. That sounds like gibberish, man. The land Sabbath. What the hell is that?
but that's something that was made evidently clear through the gospel.
Yeah.
That was when it got to the point where they hadn't been doing and the thing is, these things are known in the medieval time. That's why there was crop rotations. That's why there was because
God in America, they show you that.
yeah, that all these things were known because it was essential to maintain it. The only difference that's come now is Esau's found a basic temporary substitute for that in forcing basically even whilst the land is completely depleted, it will still be able to grow things. But then what? The fruit and veg again. That's why it's got no nutrients.
Yeah.
All the things that are meant to come from the earth into the fruit. Like the fact that the fruit is dying is because there's something lacking. It's not dying because just, it dying serves a purpose. Sustaining that in a zombified state isn't a good thing. Because then you're eating it, you're not getting any good from it.
Well, they said the researchers showed. They said you to have the strength of an orange from the 1950s, you'd have to eat 18 or so oranges, basically. So that shows you how much it lacks in sustenance. Because again, like the brother mentioned, in the earth has minerals and nutrients. Minerals such as magnesium, zinc, selenium, right? All these mineral resources, they basically go into the fruit and basically give it a lot more strength. And that's why, even with the land Sabbath, what happened? During that year, the land Sabbath, you basically have a thing known as weeds, which people now use pesticides to kill. But the thing about weeds are actually good for the earth. Because the weeds, because of their deep roots, they go down. Yeah, they hold it together, but they also, their roots are so deep that they will draw upon the nutrients and minerals down, deeper down, past the plant's roots, and bring them up to replenish the higher ground. That's why for 1 year you just got to leave it, let it grow wild, and then it will bring back the richness of the soil. But when you haven't done that for an abundance of time, which is hundreds of years, the earth is basically at its worst state. Let me read this. I don't know if you read it because I was kind of dangerous, but it's Isaiah 24:4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore have the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned and few men left. And that's only why the destruction by nuclear warfare has to come upon this earth. Why? Because by it coming upon this earth, it's basically going to replenish the land. They go down to Sicily. Earlier on, I believe a month or so ago, you had Mount Etna erupting. Right? Now, if you know anything about Mount Etna down there in Sicily, you have the blood oranges that basically grow out of that fertile soil, because the volcano brings forth very dark, rich soil. And that rich soil basically gives great nutrients and nutrient density, right, to the oranges that grow there. So much so that the color in the oranges ain't orange, it's red. So it shows you it gives it greater strength. So that's why the earth has to be destroyed, right? And when I say destroyed, I'm not talking about blow up. We're talking key points have to feel fire for it to be cleansed. And the main place is the land of Israel, right? Because that's our homeland, right? And that is greatly, heavily defiled. And it's made pure again for us to inhabit it and to fulfill prophecies of Ezekiel.
As well, for the volcanoes, they should draw out earth from, molten earth from deep. Same thing with from the roots, it's growing from deep in the earth. say that, you know, these systems exist. Esau's basically, you know,
Trying to
since he's got his little, he's been able to do, you know, a thing or two. He basically thinks he's outsmarted the system. But, you know, in the long term, it's resulted in destruction. Because even with the way they've made, like, crops have to grow, you're relying on a bunch of mechanical systems, machines and whatnot. You're relying on pesticides, you're relying on fertilizers, you're relying on all these different products. You need to spend more money, man. Capitalism wins. And that's evidently what Esau's, you know, that's what is his greed. I don't know, I think we read it earlier. Habakkuk. But what is Esau's got that insatiable greed, man, that lust, that hunger, that desire to own and have everything. Because of that, that's why he's following through on these destructive practices. What? If left to his own devices, everything would end, man. This guy's bugged out of his mind. He goes on. So it says, Amos 9 and 10, well, 9 and 9. For lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. Yeah, so Israel's being sieved, that those elect are being filtered out from amongst those that aren't going to make it. And like I said, not the least grain is going to fall. You're not going to have one of the elect not make it. They're basically going to come into this truth, come into this word, and essentially receive salvation. But then what? All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Yeah, that's the wicked Israelites. They're basically going to receive their judgment, their punishment. Because why? They're really out there indulging within the society and thinking there's gonna be no recourse. They're in the same spirit as Esau. That's the spirit Esau's in. Esau's not thinking about being judged. Because what? In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that was fallen, close up the breaches thereof, and I'll raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. So they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Most High to do with this. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the tread of grapes him that soweth seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. And I'll bring again the captivity of my people Israel, and they shall build the waste cities, and inhabit them, and shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. That's Amos. Okay. Yeah, it says what? Shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. That's what we're in the midst of. It's a waste city. Because fuck, bro, the sheer amount of volume, every facet and manner of things Esau does, there's hella waste. There's hella like the efficiency ratio is non-existent, and it's basically just completely destructive. So you have to think hard, like, I don't know, like the percentage of like food that's thrown away from supermarkets. I think it's like 30 or 40% of food is thrown away in supermarkets. Like, and then even when you count food that people buy, they said like 50 something absurd percentage that's thrown away without being eaten. Everything that Esau does, when he's using fuel, the fuel efficiency is garbage. Even they said like, what do you call it, solar panels, bear that fucking, the electricity produces wasted. All Esau's system is wasteful and destructive. And that's, hey, why? Because there's money in it. Pretty much most things, the way they're done, how they're done, is why? Extracting money. Electricity is a good example, man. And I will plant them upon their land, and and they shall no more be pulled out up out of their land, which I have given them, saith Yahweh thy power. Yeah, upon our land. And that's the thing. Once we're set up, we're no more going to captivity. And that's how it's gonna. That's gonna be the beauty of it. We're gonna be set and just run things in order, man. Because as it is now, seeing all this nonsense, it's there. It's like this is retarded, man. This shit is backwards. What's going on here?
Alright, this is the book of Ezekiel 36 and 29. I will also save you from all your uncleanness, and I will call for the corn and will increase it, and lay no famine upon you. And that's why Esau right now is trying to create a way of maintaining food supply after he's basically everything's gone to shit. Because really, as we read in Isaiah 24 or 26, it basically talks about him breaking all the covenants of Heavenly Father, including how you're meant to deal with the land. And that's why now he's basically thinking of a way to become his own power to maintain himself. Alright? Verse 30, and I will multiply the fruit of the tree and the increase of the field, that ye shall receive no more reproach or famine among the people. And a lot of people just go over their head because they don't really think about where food comes from. Because they're not in tune with agriculture. They don't understand that food actually comes from you putting in work and growing it. All right, there's a process of care, of due diligence, basically. Verse 31. Then shall you remember your own evil ways and your doings that were not good, and shall loathe yourself in your own sight for your iniquities and for your abominations. Not for your sakes do I this, saith the Lord power. Be it known unto you, be ashamed and confounded for your own ways, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh, in the day that I shall have cleansed you from all your iniquities, I will also cause you to dwell in the cities, and the waste shall be builded, and the desolate land shall be tilled, whereas it lay desolate in the sight of all that pass by. And it shall say, the land that is desolate is become like the garden of Eden, and the waste and desolate and ruined cities are become fenced and are inhabited. And the heathen that are left round about you shall know that I am the Lord build the ruined places and plant that these desolate places. I mean, it's a good scripture, but it's not the one I was looking for. Right, I was looking for the actual one where none shall learn war, and they shall burn. But it's to the point anyway. There's that one, but it's one in it's in Ezekiel. I think it's 37, but I probably couldn't find it. But this is the spirit close out. Yeah. Alright then, man. Oh, another week, man. For the spirit of power, Yahweh Hashem Shai allowed us to come out here and prophesy the downfall of this kingdom. And Lord willing, we'll be out next week. And Lord willing, when we be here next week, because the king will be in the kingdom. Alright? So say all praise to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem, Harakah, double honors unto the apostles, those great. Shalom to all.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.